Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today is the LEGO Weekly Top 10 MOCs episode where we show off the coolest custom LEGO creations we happen to see people building throughout the week. This is not ordered in any best to worst order. We just kind of show off the 10 coolest custom creations that we happen to see people building. Linked in the description below are all of the Flickr accounts to all the different guys that we feature today, and I highly recommend you take a closer look at their galleries. There's some really interesting creative builds constantly being pushed out, and let's start off with the very first one from Simon Wild. It's an ATDT. Technically, I think we first saw this from like a Star Wars video game back in 2014, but really people saw this thing on the big screen in Solo. It's very much like an ATST. The legs are a little bit of a different construction, and the head is a somewhat exposed, very heavily front armored thing with a big old cannon or series of cannons, it looks like. The slightly bulkier build and round feet with the little teeth at the bottom, combined with just a big old cannon on one side, really reminds me of like an 80s or 90s mech style build. Even though the concept of this vehicle first hit the screens like 5 years ago, it feels like they might have been borrowing from some very old concept art, because it does kind of look like a blast from the past conceptually. Great job by Simon Wild turning this into a model. And now we've got a really interesting one from LegoSeven, always knocking out some amazing builds. This is called the Animal Music Box. Kind of gives me a little bit of a Gorillaz vibe with the gorilla on drums, but really this is just something cool from its own universe. I think that's a mouse on guitar and probably lead singer. Definitely a rabbit on keyboard also singing, and then the soloist panda bear with the double neck. There's a lot of really creative ideas going on here. I like the style in which the animals themselves were created. They all have a bit of personality. I think my favorite one is probably the gorilla, just with the animated arms going up like that with the sticks. But we have a fun build for a title at the bottom, and this entire mock stand looks like it is inside some types of mixing box. I'm not totally sure. It's a very creative concept, wonderful building techniques, and then we're moving back to the realm of things that exist within some type of universe. This one specifically being the X-Men universe. From IceCream Clone, we have Sentinel and Stand. Now technically we have shown off this Sentinel before with a different backdrop, but this is probably one of my favorite builds for this particular type of baddie. It's interesting to think that this was your regular goon that the X-Men fought off on a normal basis, and the build concept here is awesome. I love the brick built face particularly because they did have these kind of evil but somewhat vacant robotic stares, and IceCream Clone really did capture, I think, the look of the Sentinel quite well. You can see that he is included with the stand because it doesn't look like this model can actually hold himself up on his legs, at least probably not very well, and I highly recommend you check out this guy's Flickr for some amazing LEGO projects. We're moving on. Number 7 moving down is from Peter Ilmrud. This is the Wyvernstone village. We've got some excellent building techniques that makes up this, what I'm gonna say is a fantasy land. It feels like maybe one of the villages you might run into in Skyrim or something like that. So not only are the buildings built wonderfully, but you have a series of fun little scenes that are sprinkled throughout the village. I like the old wizard telling stories to the children and townsfolk, but really there's all types of things happening in every corner that you look. Specifically, the building techniques that I like here are, of course, the rooftops. You have 3 different techniques, and I think that makes a huge difference when you're looking at this total thing from afar. It really breaks up the look of this mock quite a bit, and I'm really wishing I discovered this guy earlier because he is knocking out some amazing builds. Number 6 moving down the line is from Full Plate. I've featured this guy a bunch of times. He's got some of the best natural looking plants and interesting concepts and building techniques to create them. He has now decided to go to the coral reef. This is the first underwater build I've seen him put together. So naturally we've got some very interesting colors and concepts in terms of how he decided to build certain pieces of the coral. I'm a big fan of diving myself, and he's also decided to show off what some of the coral bleaching looks like. That's a natural or unnatural phenomenon that's currently happening where, long story short, the oceans are getting a bit too hot and they are bleaching, killing off some of the coral reef, or quite a bit of it. So you can see the dead patch here with some interesting texture still included, and really just taking a close look at the coral itself. You can see trumpets and carrots, of course different types of bush pieces, discs. I'm not entirely sure how he got those 1x2 plates to stack around each other like that, but that's interesting. You can see minifigure hair pieces, lightsaber blades, all kinds of stuff. Really interesting. Oh yeah, a lot of golden whips from Wonder Woman. I mean, there's all these fun pieces included, and it really does make it look like a very vibrant and happening coral reef. If you're looking for interesting techniques to make up natural, detailed looking plants and things from nature, I highly recommend you check out Full Plate. And we're moving down to number 5. This one is, I don't know why, but I feel like this is my favorite one of the week just because of its simplicity, and it's kind of like one of those sci-fi builds that's been put into a place in history. This very much feels like the African front in World War II, and if we'd had crude, rudimentary walkers, 4-legged walker tanks instead of regular tanks. He even says so much in the description. Now that I'm reading it, it says North Africa, August 1942. He's calling it the Sand Weevil, and of course he's saying it was the deciding factor for them winning the fronts all along this area during World War II. He's used the Sand Trooper shin pieces, or perhaps those are the thigh pieces that make up the armor plating on the legs. Those large rounded bricks that face each other stud-wise in the center, I think probably make up my favorite bit of building. And ultimately this has got enough of the sci-fi and enough of the old school just mechanical detailing that makes this thing feel just kind of grounded in reality, enough to be believable, but it's also got a fun fantasy aspect. It's just a really cool looking walker at the end of the day. And now for actually my favorite build of the week. This one is so awesome. Just the color combination, the color choices here work better than most builds that I've seen. This is from Anthony Wilson. It's called Western Woods. Now I can't remember that Ninjago character name, I'm sorry guys, but I really like just, you know, she's sitting there with the one knee up. She's sitting with her little fox friend or cat friend from, I think, Friends line, and you can tell immediately and unequivocally that she is in some interesting, weird, and strange fantasy land, and it's so pretty. Everything has the colors inverted. It looks like stones are naturally blue in this world, but you can see different shades of blue popping out kind of all around. The steps are consistently a little bit lighter, and the color fluctuates around this old ruined tower, as well as some of the rocks sticking up from the sides. The trees naturally glow in a pink and purple, and I do also like that they kept the tree trunks and vines brown, kept one element still naturally colored and kept and moved everything else around. It just pops really well with the yellow ground, and conceptually this is probably one of the best single color combinations I've seen in a Lego build. It really does just grab me. Now this is a funny one. I didn't know who Frenchy Bricks Junky was until I saw this build. It's called Puppylosaurus, and holy guacamole, is this a disturbing one. I'm gonna guess that is the face of, I don't know what type of dog this is or was before, but the weird rocky scaly skin around him with a little bit of what looks like a furry ridgeline on the back just makes this thing so disturbing, especially because you've got this happy-go-lucky businessman following him around with the leash. He's got a pink collar. It's just weird and odd, and I just knew when I saw this that this was a conglomerate bit of building, probably based on two different designs that he has combined. And looking back through his Flickr, I found his Godzilla. By the way, an amazing Godzilla. I love that he went through the skin completely with just cheese wedge pieces, but I didn't look back far enough to see if I could find the head of the dog. So I guess this was just perhaps a natural consequence of taking apart old builds and having fun with little module pieces of them before fully taking it apart. Puppylosaurus is a really fun one. I highly recommend you check out this guy's stuff. He's got some really interesting concepts. And now we're moving on to the bottom 3. This is the calm before the strike. About 1.5 million people have done Hoth designs in Lego. I mean, it's probably one of the first things people try to put together if you're a big fan of Star Wars and Lego combined. And Gabe F has made a Hoth Bear Axe, but he's done it just in a vignette type style build with extreme details, and I like that a lot. This is, it looks like the bunkers where the soldiers are actually sleeping, which is usually, or if not never, depicted. Looks like they're sleeping in these hollowed out little crates, and they're loosely and clumsily stacked on top of each other amidst the snow. You can see where they play games. They've got, I think that's a Twi'lek poster, I'm not totally sure. And it's just kind of a fun, interesting little spot with the loose walkway and articles and items scattered all about. These little vignettes are great. You can always get a little bit more character and detail out of them than normally the larger ones. And now number 2 is from Oliver Becker. It's called The Wandering Temple of the Last Flame. Now this is a fun one, kind of a strange one. We often get builds where things or towers are built onto the back of a snail or back of a turtle, like a flying turtle or something. This is the case here. It's either a turtle or a tortoise. I love the brick built legs there with the cheese wedge pieces making up the toes in the front. What is that green piece that makes up the head of the turtle? I feel like I should know this, but it's not coming to me right now, so somebody let me know what the heck that piece is. That Mixel eye sticking out of there is both funny and a little bit disturbing. You can see the carrot is motivating the turtle, and we've got a wonderful build for what looks like a little house on the back of him. I think the turtle is armored as well. I can't totally tell, but conceptually this is a really fun one. And I actually miscounted. That was the last one of the week, but remember guys, you can check out the Flickr accounts of everybody I've talked about and more in the link in the description, the links in the description below. If you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching everyone, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault. Hey guys, just popping in really quick, letting you know that we do have a Lego web store, www.brickvault.toys, where we sell the instructions, the PDF step-by-step instructions for some very high quality MOCs. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out if you want to help support us here at the channel, or the designers that spend their time building some really amazing creations. That's www.brickvault.toys. Thanks a lot for hanging out, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.